You were a manager, you left that role to do YouTube full time. Tell me about that process.
It got to a point where I was making more money through YouTube and consulting than I was in my full-time job. Like right now, you're paying me what, 20,000? What did we agree?
Something like 20,000 rubles, something.
Right. Okay, yeah.
You had said that you didn't actually really enjoy being a manager that much. I had a very similar experience.
I realized I was like, maybe my plan that I had for the past 3 years, which is now playing out, isn't the best plan for me, even though that's what I had been striving for.
Over time, I've become a little bit jaded about content in general. Why don't I be different? Why don't I try to tell the stories that I think are really important and that I want to get out there? And maybe they won't get as many views, but I'll make better content because I'm excited about it.
I've had this like epiphany a while back where I was like, I like building things and growing things from scratch and like making it successful. I don't know why. I don't like reveling in success and building on my success for whatever reason. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I really like starting over and trying new things and sparking it. And so creatively, I didn't know I needed that, but I did.
This episode of Ken's Nearest Neighbors is powered by Z by HP, HP's high compute, workstation grade line of products and solutions. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing my good friend, Alex Freeberg, otherwise known as Alex the Analyst. So Alex just passed the 500,000 subscriber threshold on YouTube, providing really great insights around data analysis, SQL, and everything of the data sort on his YouTube channel. He also is a prolific LinkedIn presence, bringing comedy and great insights to the platform there. Today, we're talking about how and why Alex left his job as an analytics manager. We're also touching on his new platform, the Analyst Builder, that's coming out in a couple months. And we finally end with his real perspective and take on the prevalence of AI and how it'll change the analyst role. Hope you tune in and you really enjoy this episode. It's always a pleasure to talk with Alex. Alex, welcome back to the Ken's Nearest Neighbors podcast. It's been too long.
It has been too long. Thanks for having me back. I didn't think I'd be invited back after the last one, but I'm glad I'm invited back.
The last one was a great episode. We had you and Luke. We duked it out for the title of the greatest data analyst on YouTube. And I'm just happy we could do another one-on-one because you always have such a great perspective and interesting stories to tell. So again, welcome back on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I wanted to start. Can I still call you Alex the Analyst now that you have left your analyst job? This seems like a similar Seattle data guy who doesn't live in Seattle thing anymore.
Yeah, no, you absolutely can. I still do data analyst related work, and my whole YouTube channel is dedicated to data analysis. And so I definitely still think I would call myself Alex the Analyst. I've thought about like the future of the channel. I could consider maybe in the future if, because my skills have broadened so much over the past 3 years, even since I started this channel, where I was very data analyst focused when I first started. But my skills are what I would consider as far beyond just data analysis now. I think I do a lot of data engineering, some parts of data science, data architecture, web dev, like full stack engineer. Like I do a little bit of everything now, although it's mostly focused on analytics. My skills have changed so much. So I don't know if I'll only always focus on data analyst stuff. I still plan on for the next maybe year or two, but I can see myself in the future maybe expanding that and then just doing like Alex Freeberg or something lame, like just using your name.
Yeah, only losers do that.
Yeah, I know. So like I've considered it, but as for now, no. I think it is very fitting.
So did you pick up most of those skills from YouTube and content, or were those things you were doing at work? What did that look like? Where did you acquire all that information?
A little of both. I would say a lot of the data engineering and data science stuff I picked up on the job. So my last job, I was working on a data science team. I was working very heavily with data engineering. That was like, I was like this with them. And at one point I had the opportunity or the chance to become a data engineer and work underneath them as a junior data engineer. And I was like, I wanted to go more the managerial path, which then I became an analytics manager. Um, but I learned so much data engineering from working with data engineers, database developers, and data architects about that whole everything involved in that. And so I learned a lot of hands-on with data engineering there. And then as well with data science, I was working with data scientists as well. And again, similar story is I did really well with that, and they wanted to bring me on as a data scientist, and I said no to that as well because I just didn't. No offense, it was not my thing. Like I didn't love it as much as I loved data analysis, and so I was like, no. I was like, if anything, I was going to go move towards data engineering because I really liked that building aspect of it, the automation, like that stuff really hits like all the notes of things that I enjoy. And so I picked up a lot of stuff like that through work. And then a little bit afterwards. So like right now we've been building Analyst Builder. And through that, I've learned a lot of these other skills like, creating APIs, how these APIs interact with each other and why they're important. Building an infrastructure for a database and making that at scale, which I just posted about on LinkedIn this morning. I was like, I didn't anticipate it being the beta launch being that big for Analyst Builder. And now it is really big. And so we're like, we have to scale our infrastructure up higher. So I'm learning all about these things. And I have been for the past year. And so a lot of these things I've just learned through building and doing and being hands-on. Like that's how I learn at least. And so, I would say half has been like in my actual job. Half has been like after the fact, just kind of building and working with different companies and building my own thing.
Well, it sounds like, half was at companies, half was on your own building yourself, but almost 100% was through building things rather than through, I want to learn this. I'm going to pick up a textbook. I'm going to watch these YouTube videos. I'm very much in the same boat.
That's an interesting, I consider myself a very hands-on person. Like when I was a manager, I didn't enjoy it as much because I didn't get to build things. I just got to tell people what to build and reviewed their code and stuff like that. And it definitely was not like, didn't fit 100% with what I love to do. And so I have always found that, especially when I first started out, I was a course person. Like I took thousands of courses. And then once I picked it up, I was like, okay, now that I got the basics, let me try to implement it. And that's how I feel like I really solidified my skills. And so when I got into the real workplace, and for the past 3 or 4, 5 years now, I'm like, I just learned by building because I already have the fundamentals. I already know kind of what it's supposed to do. I understand Python really well. I understand SQL and databases and all these other things. So I can kind of go into anything that I want to build and figure it out. Whether that's using things like ChatGPT or relying on others who've already built these things and just asking them, hey, what do you recommend how to do this or scale this or create this? And I just learn from other people and build. Like building is definitely building these projects is definitely like the biggest thing that's helped me learn quickly.
Yeah, I like that so much. And the idea of a foundation is something that has been, I've been hearing that a lot recently, especially with ChatGPT and some of these tools.
Yeah.
You think we're talking about building. In theory, if you are thinking about a office building or any of those types of things, a house, they do need a foundation as well. And that's the work that goes on that's not seen, right? It's underneath the surface, it's in the ground. And a solid foundation means that you can build larger buildings, more impressive infrastructure on top of it. And I think that you can start building before you have a super solid foundation, but you just have to think of it differently. It's like, okay, I can build a prefab house and I can also build this foundation. But before I put the prefab house in the lot, I need it to be on a solid foundation. And there's some, maybe I'm extending the metaphor too far, but I think that if people if people are looking at it that way, it's like, okay, well, I do need this foundation, but do I need it right now? Maybe I get some benefit of like building infrastructure. If I build this place, then I know exactly what type of foundation I need to put the house on top of. And there's still, it doesn't have to necessarily be one or the other. You can do them sort of independently and connect them when you need them. And I think that a lot of people, it's like, oh, it has to be so linear. We have to do this and then this. But at least for me, I found that you can trudge your own path and build the foundation, or start building in whatever order you like. Some people are just really uncomfortable building without a foundation. Other people are
Yeah.
like, well, I just love building. I want to do that, and then I can learn the foundation as we go and add to it
Yeah.
in that fashion. So, I do want to ask, you were a manager, you left that role to do YouTube full time. Tell me about that process. What went through your head? How did you make that decision? Obviously not an easy decision to make. You have a large family and a zoo that you take care of. And I'm wondering, like, what steps did you take? Success. What was your process there?
So, yeah, first off, yes, I have a large family. I have 3 kids. I have a wife. I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, and some fish. I didn't want all these animals, but my family wanted the animals, so we kept getting animals, right? So, yeah, I have a large family, and I am the sole income earner in the family. My wife, ever since the pandemic at the beginning of 2020, has been a stay-at-home mom. And now the kids are starting to go to school, so she's looking to get back into work, but I am the only person making money in my family right now. And so it's definitely it was a huge responsibility to make sure I did it right, because if not, I'm the only one earning money. So like if I went down to 0, that's really bad. But the actual process of it was really easy because it kind of just hit me over time, right? It was just like, it wasn't even a tough choice at some point, because it got to a point where I was making more money, or about the same amount of money, through YouTube and consulting than I was in my full-time job. And so when I got to that point, I was like, wait a second, I'm only dedicating, 10 hours a month, or maybe 15 hours a month on my side stuff, and it's making as much as my 40 hours at my full-time job. If I could dedicate all my time, 50, 60 hours a week, to consulting and YouTube, I was like, I could make like a lot of money. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I know I'm going to do it. I just have to kind of lay out how I'm going to do it. And so, I talked with my wife, and we figured it out, the timing and all that stuff. And then I just went for it, and I haven't looked back. I would say about half of my income is consulting, and half of my income is YouTube, or YouTube related things, right? Whether that's posts on social media, or that's making a video for someone, or it's a speaking engagement. Like right now, you're paying me what, 20,000? What did we agree?
Something like 20,000 rubles. Something in
right. Okay, yeah. But I get paid for public speaking events, and so a lot of my income is very diversified, as well as like affiliate links on a lot of my videos. So it's all over the place. Like it's a lot of different things, and so now I just get to solely focus on that and create content. And the process of it was actually, it just kind of, I looked at it one day and I'm like, it doesn't make sense for me to stay at my full-time job anymore. I have this thing, and I can kind of grow that, not exponentially, but I can continue to grow it and use that in my business. And so it just kind of all worked together. It wasn't look in the moment, it was a little bit tough, because I'd never done anything like that before. But looking back, I'm like, that was such an obvious decision,
Mm-hmm. So correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe add to this list. So some of the reasons that you left was likely more financial upside, right? If you can invest the same amount of time into something that is uncapped, I would argue most full-time positions are capped in some sense.
Right.
You also have a little more flexibility, where you could choose to spend more time with your family. You could choose to work a lot when they're not around. It seems like that's a very, powerful reason. You also have a lot more flexibility in what you can learn and what you can put together. That also seems pretty appealing to a lot of people. And as you mentioned before, you're diversified across a lot of income streams. Would you consider, so I have this thing about contracting freelance work, and like sort of what we do is considered entrepreneurship, but I consider it like a specific category of entrepreneurship. I am a firm believer that the way that we make our lives outside of traditional work is more reliable than a 9-to-5 job. Would you agree with that statement, or would you disagree with that statement?
Right now, where I'm at, I 100% would agree. Because at previous jobs, I've had times where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have a job next month, because I don't know if the company, because I was working at a company that had missed some payments, like for my monthly payment or biweekly payment. And I was like, hey, is everything okay? And they're like, yeah, sorry, we got to get paid by our, and I'm like, whoa, I can't continue working here. And that was early on in my career. And I was like, that's not good. So like there have been companies I've worked for where I wasn't sure if I was going to be employed the next month. And that's really unsettling, especially as I became the breadwinner of the family. My wife was, when we first got married, she was making double what I was making, but slowly I became the breadwinner of the family and we became more reliant on my income. And so, yeah, now as like an entrepreneur, and I can kind of, I have a lot of opportunities out there. Like I have some in my inbox right now that I haven't read. They're like, hey, let's collaborate on something. Let's build something. Let's do a post. So now I have kind of, at least with what I do, I have a lot of opportunities to do anything I want. I can turn things down. I can say yes. I can say no. I can set my own prices. And it definitely, I don't see it slowing down or going away anytime soon. And so it definitely, to me, feels more reliable where I'm at now. Now, I don't know if I could say that 2 years ago when I was at like 20,000 subscribers and very few people knew who I was. But as my channel and as my brand, I guess you could call it, kind of has grown, it's been a lot easier. And now it's extremely reliable where I'm not really concerned about getting more work or making money to pay the bills. And so it's been very freeing in that sense.
This episode of Ken's Nearest Neighbors is brought to you by Z by HP, HP's high compute, workstation grade line of products and solutions. Z is specifically made for high performance data science solutions, and I personally use the ZBook Studio and the Z8 workstation. I really love that the Z workstations can come standard with Linux or WSL2, and they can be configured with the Data Science Software Stack Manager. With the Software Stack Manager, you can get right to the work of doing data science on day one without the overhead of having to completely reconfigure your new machine. Now back to our show. Yeah, I think something I think about a lot is, what would it take for my income in a month to go to zero? I think working a full-time job, and unless you have investments in stocks and other sources of income, you could get fired and you might get some severance, but you go from making a good income just off a cliff. And now, if something happened, it would probably be like this, or if I stop putting in work, it slowly goes down like that. But to me, that's something I'm very cognizant of is, what is resiliency to begin with? In my opinion, resiliency is the ability to recover from a shock, and a shock of losing your job is like, that is not something you recover from in most circumstances.
Yeah.
I will say full-time jobs, more corporate jobs are more consistent for sure. You get a paycheck that is roughly the same amount every week. One month I might do really well, and another month I might have slacked off and not really get anything coming in. I'm like, I probably should have worked a little harder, but that's something that is in my control. Whereas in other circumstances, there are a lot less things that I can purely influence.
Yeah. And to that point, when I was talking about those previous jobs, that's why I had to job hop. And that's actually what made me make more money in the long run anyways, was at these previous jobs, I really liked working there. And I did not want to leave some of those jobs. Like there was one I was working as called KNN Analytics. They were a great company. I loved the work I did. I saw a future there, like just progressing in their company. It was a small company. I was like, then they wanted me to stay and they told me they were going to promote me. But I felt that fear of like, I cannot lose this job. Like if I lost it, like my family's screwed. So like I felt that pressure too. I had to find something more stable, which brought me to the company I worked for 3 years, was a junior data analyst, analytics manager there. and it was a global company, I felt really stable there because they made a lot of money. Like that was like number 4 on the Fortune 5 or number 7 on the Fortune 500 list. Like they're making tons of money. So I felt a lot more secure. And, I think that if I had lost that job early on, I would have just had to take something just to make some money. And that could have like completely changed my life. So like, that insecurity, at least for me, led to a little bit of job hopping, which ended up really working out. But, it doesn't always work out exactly like that. And so, yeah, it wasn't as stable at some points in my career as it is now.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that stability and how we frame it is a unique equation for everyone, and we should probably all individually be fairly introspective about that. So something else that I'd love to hear about, which is sort of in that same vein, is you had said that you didn't actually really enjoy being a manager that much. I had a very similar experience where I realized personally I'm not a very good manager, right? Like it's just not something I like building. I don't like feeling like I'm lording over people, and which is surprising, I would imagine, hearing for you to hear that. But what was that experience like? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about that maybe you could extend onto the new ventures that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was really, really, really excited to become a manager. My career path was, and I had this like all planned out ever since I got there. I was like, I want to become a manager. I want to become like a senior manager, VP, like CTO. I'm talking like all the way up. And I was convinced I could do it. I think I could have done it. It would have taken a long time, like 10, 15 years, but I would have gotten there. But I got in there and the first 6 months were great, right? I had a team of developers and analysts, and I was working directly with the VP of, so I was in IT. So like I switched from healthcare into IT within the same company. So within IT, we had the VP who was over all of IT, and then above him was the CTO. So he was really high up. And I was working with both of them pretty directly because we were the analytics for every department within IT. So within IT, we had like 12 different departments. My group did all the analytics for all the departments, or at least help the analysts who were in those departments do their work better, get everything done. So my team was pretty important. And it was kind of like a little power trip. I was like, dang, I'm working with these like really powerful people. I'm really early on in my career. Like, wow, I'm doing really great. And that wore off maybe after like 5 to 6 months. After that, I'm like, okay. And they brought me on, and just so like a little bit of context, they brought me on because I was really good with cloud infrastructure. And so I had done really well with helping our team migrate from most of it was on-prem. So some on-prem, some in the cloud, migrated everything fully to the cloud. And I helped with that integration. And so as an analyst, I was working directly with those database developers like we were talking about earlier, the data architects, and I was the main guy for the analyst to make sure that we had everything set up for what we needed for all of our processes. So it was pretty complex, I would say. And they wanted someone who had that knowledge and could bring it in and do that. So the first 6 months, that's all we're doing is I'm helping getting pricing for, doing this, hiring on another a data engineer to help migrate the data from all these processes to have a kind of like a unified data infrastructure for IT, which we never had. And so really exciting project, really important, big, expensive project, like millions of dollars into this project. And so I'm feeling like really proud of myself. I was doing a really good job. But then after like 6 months, I was like, I'm not really doing anything. Like I'm just telling people what to do. And I was like, I miss coding and I miss building. And that's where I got a lot of the stuff that I was doing on YouTube was kind of my outlet to actually like have fun and enjoy what I was doing. I was just making a lot of money as a manager, at least, I was making much more than I had ever made in a full-time job. And I was like, this is great for my family. But then once I got into it, I was like, I liked working with the people. So one of the things that I really enjoyed about being a manager was promoting people. Just because I was like, dude, I have power. I want to help promote people. And so almost everyone on my team got a promotion within the first year I was there. And it was like, I would like hassle HR to make it happen too. And my boss, like I would track them down and be like, guys, this person has been here for a year. They're doing great work. If we do not give them a raise, we're gonna have to hire somebody else
What
and
a
more
great
money. I was like,
boss.
guys, trust me. So I got every single person on my team a raise, and no, not a raise, a promotion. And so everyone was like really happy with me. But again, I just personally, selfishly, I wasn't enjoying the work anymore. I was like, okay, now I'm just meeting with vendors every day and talking about pricing and laying out pricing models and doing like cost, doing these like cost, what are they called? These different models for like how much it's going to cost long term versus short term. What was our budget say? It wasn't what I enjoyed. And so near the end, I was like, when I started getting more consulting work, that's what was like really exciting me. I was like, this is exciting me and I'm making more money from it. So it was kind of became a no-brainer towards the end. I was like, I don't want to do this long term. And so that really just kind of nudged me in that direction again of just, I meant to do my own thing, build my own stuff. And I fully jumped into that because that time as a manager really like, I realized I was like, maybe my plan that I had for the past 3 years, which is now playing out, isn't the best plan for me, even though that's what I had been striving for and working towards. And so I kind of just had to do this pivot in my career and like shift my mindset to, is this what I want to do in 5-10 years? And I was like, no, this is not what I want to do in 5 to 10 years. What I want to do is over there working with really unique companies and really unique, products and building things like that's what I want to do. And so for some people, management is like their thing. They love it. And there were parts of it that I really loved. The people side. I really loved working with the people and growing my team and like getting to know them and helping them in their careers. That I loved. I just didn't like the actual work itself. And a lot of it was hiring. So we had a contracting team. So a contractor was always leaving for a different project. I had to get a new contractor. I hated that. And so
Now you're the contractor.
Yeah, just what's that?
And now you're the
exactly.
contractor.
Now I'm the contractor. And so yeah, it's just there were parts of it I liked, but I would say more than 50% of it, I was just after like 6 months, I was like, I don't mind it, but this is not what I want to do long term. And that's what my boss did even more so. And that's what his boss did even more so. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's all just pricing and it's strategy and talking about pricing. That was like 80% of the hands-on work I did. And it was just not for me. So all that to say, that was my experience as a manager.
Well, it's very interesting. I find more and more the higher up you go in organizations, from personal experience, from talking to people, at least for me, the less skilled the work becomes. So you go up one level, you're just sitting in meetings, you're talking about pricing, and at least for me, I was writing a lot of tickets for what people should be doing, like Jira tickets and those types of things. You go up another level, you're sitting in even more meetings, and you're just talking about stuff. You're not really doing anything.
Yeah.
And you do less and less the higher up you go. I mean, like you have more and more responsibility. But then again, a lot of people at the top like push responsibility down. It's like, oh, it was Alex's fault that this didn't work, not my fault. They couldn't possibly. And then that's obviously the complete opposite way a company should be run. But how companies should be run and what they're actually and the way that they're actually run are quite different. So
that is true.
I want to ask a little bit about the consulting as well. So like, what type of consulting are you doing? How are you getting your clients? What does that even look like?
Yeah. So consulting's been really, I've been doing it for the past almost a little over 2 years now. So I started getting like every so often I get someone who'd be like, hey, I saw your channel on YouTube and we have a similar problem and we were wondering if you can help. And I was like, yeah, that's amazing. $500. Hello. I was like any amount of money 2 years ago to me was like gold. And so I would just get it through, they would send me an email. And then it became LinkedIn. I got a lot of messages through LinkedIn. I have not, and this is very different, so I don't think this is normal, but I have never reached out to get consulting work. I've only had people reach out to me. Even now, I just looked at my inbox this morning. I had someone new reach out to me asking to do something. And I get several of those per week. And so it's been really just an amazing blessing. Like, I've just been incredibly blessed to not have to hustle and grind and work to get clients. Now, the actual work itself has been very varied. Some want me to do like more YouTube stuff. They want me to make a video for them. They want me to come in and train their team on how to use AWS, or train them how to use Azure or SQL or something like that, where they've been using Microsoft Access or Excel and they want to update their infrastructure. Or it's more hands-on. That's can be hands-on, or it's more technical, where they're like, hey, we want to go from on-prem to cloud. Do you know how to do that? I'm like, you're talking to the right guy. I did that for 2 different organizations and helped with that whole thing. And I know all the pricing stuff and I know the vendors, and, I still have connections to my old work where I reach out to them. I'm like, hey, remember me? We did this at this company. I'm working with a new company. Can you come and give us a pitch and show us how your product would be good? And so those connections have been helpful. But sometimes it's more like implementation of, how to build dashboards in Power BI and how to allow people access and how to set everything up. And so I'm implementing things. And then some things have been more high level. So they come in and they're like, we are going to market it's a startup in like Silicon Valley. This has been like a lot of companies for this type of thing. Or they're like, hey, we're going to market. It's an analytics company. What is the other one I'm thinking of? It's a connecting to data. I can't think of the word for it. It's escaping me. Where we're connecting the data, you don't have to migrate your data. We're just connecting to it and you can query it. Those types of companies. And they're like, we want to target data analysts specifically. We want data analysts to use our product. And I'm like, okay, show me what your marketing strategy is. Show me what your demographics are. Show me how you're marketing this to managers or companies. And they'll show me it to me and I'll be like, oh, okay. As a manager at this company, when we would work with your exact type of company, I would not want to see that. That's a red flag to me. And I would show them, here's what I would do. And I consult and kind of show them some marketing strategies that I found really successful and that I have some experience with the consulting side. And I'm like, these have worked really well. And I've gotten some feedback and data back from these other companies. And they're like, your feedback on this was really helpful. We really appreciate that. So all that to say, it's been very all over the place. I enjoy all of it, which is great. Like I enjoy every part of it. And so I get to now pick and choose. Like I just get to go into my inbox when I'm ready to pick up another project, and I shoot them an email or shoot 2 or 3 an email. I'm like, hey, give me some more details on this. I think I think I can help with this. And then whatever ones, come through for who I reach out to, those are the projects I pick up. And so that's been my consulting experience. I don't know how much detail you want me to go in further than that, but that's kind of like high level what I've been working on with consulting.
No, that was really good. I think that was quite informative. You'd mentioned that you didn't have to hustle and grind to get consulting clients and do those types of things. I would argue that you sort of did by hustling and grinding and putting out a lot of content, telling stories online, making a LinkedIn presence, doing all those things. It's, in my opinion, a more efficient way of marketing. It's slower progression. Like, you're not going to get clients right away when you start a YouTube channel, when you start posting on LinkedIn. But over time, you completely invert the equation where you spend, as you mentioned, 0 time marketing now, and you have this network of people coming to you. Whereas if someone was just selling hard the whole time, yes, they probably have a network of referrals if they're doing really good work, but they wouldn't be getting 1 to 2 messages a week that are inbound. They'd be still having to hustle and go on. I love the idea of setting it and forgetting it, where you build infrastructure, you build something good, you create a brand, and then it serves you for the rest of your life. That sounds way, way better, even if it's a slower trek up the mountain to me.
Yeah, no, you are 100% correct. I think I guess in my mind, I was talking more about like reaching out to clients, talking to clients, convincing them that I can do the work, which I think a lot of consultants have to do. And I've been getting more questions about consulting lately as I've kind of shifted more of my business to that. And so I get a lot more people asking about it. And I always tell them, I'm like, I'm not the perfect person to ask because most people have to like really go out there, and I don't know all the strategies to that because I haven't had to do it. I haven't been under that pressure where I have to do it. So you're right though, like my YouTube stuff and my LinkedIn stuff and Twitter and like all these things that I've been posting on for over 3 years now is like really paying off dividends. Like tenfold the work that I put in has been given back to me. And so you're absolutely right. I definitely put in work. It's just on this consulting aspect specifically, it definitely, I feel very fortunate. It was kind of like serendipitous. I felt very fortunate that I don't have to do the stuff that other people may have to do.
That makes a ton of sense. So tell me about LinkedIn. It seems very much like you understand that platform well. You enjoy posting there. You were an overnight success on LinkedIn, correct?
No, I don't think so. LinkedIn was very much like YouTube. LinkedIn is a very interesting place. You have to be professional, but people also like humor. But if you just post helpful stuff, some people like it, some people don't. So I have found just through a lot of testing, like I posted all types of content, everything you could imagine in analytics, I've done it. The ones that I think are the most successful, especially recently in the past several months that I've been doing, are I do satirical posts, so things that make people laugh and share. So I love satire. I always have. That's definitely my humor style. And so satire works really well. Controversial things work really well as well. Really well as well. Also, how do you want to say that? Controversial things I think always make people, it's like a call to action. It's like, I have to take up my side. So I like controversial things. And then genuinely helpful things. I think I've been doing more helpful things than not lately. And so, posting like, here are my thoughts on, AI in the data space and how it's going to drive, hiring in the future. Because it's something that people genuinely are concerned about and thinking about. And these are things that I have a lot of thoughts on. And I've, feel like I have a pretty good feeling for. And so I share those things. And again, some of those things are controversial too, but then I think that it is still very helpful. And so, LinkedIn has been kind of that underdog story. I think I'm hitting on like 250,000 on LinkedIn, which is insane to think about. I don't really look at numbers anymore. I used to be really obsessed with the data. It's surprising. I used to be really obsessed with the data and like checked it all the time, looked at my analytics, looked at watch time and all these things. Now that I've kind of gotten into a comfortable groove, I kind of already mentally know what works, what doesn't work, and where I'm at, like just as a ballpark. I'm like, I think I'm over 250 on my YouTube channel or 550 or something. So like mentally, I'm just like, I look at like groupings. As you get high, as I've gotten higher, at least I'm like, once I hit 500, that was like my big milestone. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I need to keep counting anymore. Like each individual 1,000. Same thing on LinkedIn. As I got over like 150, which like was crazy. Now I'm like 25,000 more people is an insane amount of people. But compared to the already group I have, it doesn't like register like it used to. It doesn't hit like it used to. Now it's kind of like, wow, that's great. It's more people who hear what I have to say. And I don't know, I become a little desensitized to the actual number. I still very much care about the people who I'm impacting. I still very much care about what I'm putting out there because I know I have some sway or some influence in the space. So I'm very careful what I very much care. It's just not about the specific number. I don't care about that as much anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's about the messaging and what you put out and the stories you're telling and the value you're creating. If you're doing those things, I think overall the numbers take care of themselves. It is always a little weird to think about it perspective-wise, though. So, 500,000, whatever it might be, it's like 5 football stadiums worth of like fully packed,
Yeah.
largest football stadiums in the world of people. Like, wow, they're all there to watch you, Alex. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah. It's pretty weird.
yeah, it is pretty surreal in some sense too. I I am interested in what you. So you said LinkedIn, for example, it's a very interesting place. Do you think it's a good place, or do you think it's uh something other than that? Because I have very mixed feelings about LinkedIn. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people go just to posture and say, "Hey, look at all the cool stuff I've been doing," and
Right.
look at
Right.
this promotion I got. And if you want to be like me, if you want to make six figures in 4 minutes, do X, Y, Z. And
Right.
it's just weird that they've created this professional place, but every day it seems like it's becoming more and more like Instagram. Like Instagram, that's what you expect that. But on LinkedIn, it's
Yes.
sort of like, man, like,
Well, okay. I have a pretty, I think, a interesting thing to say on this, because this is not the first time this has come up. My take on it is that if most people are out there posturing and trying to sell you something, and it's always a show, I feel like the content that I put out is a breath of fresh air
yeah,
most of the time. I try to be that breath of fresh air for somebody, because you're right. There is, I would possibly say, even a majority of people who just go on LinkedIn to show their accomplishments. It's, here's my highlights. Like you said, it's like Instagram. I think there are a small community of people who really make it LinkedIn great. And I try to be part of that community that's like really trying to make LinkedIn what it should be and what it can be, um, and make fun of people and really push them down and make them feel bad about themselves for the people who don't make it as fun. I think that's my responsibility as, who I am. And so I do. There are times where I'll comment on things, and I'll say like something really sarcastic or just really funny, just to like let them know that I'm like, come on, like you don't need to post that, and it'll get hundreds of upvotes, and it makes me really happy. And so I think that yes, there's a majority of people on LinkedIn who mostly and that's because the majority of people aren't like you and I. The majority of people are just like regular people working a job, and they want to use it as networking, so they show their accomplishments to help them get jobs, which is not a bad thing. Um, but LinkedIn, I think it can be a lot more than that, where you also are very uplifting, encouraging, helpful to people who are below or not as far in their career as you. And so I think it can be that, and even more so. And I try to surround myself with that kind of content as well. Like if I see people posting stuff I don't, I get rid of it. I say, don't show me this person's content anymore. So you can curate it. But yeah, LinkedIn is its own beast. I just try to make LinkedIn a little bit better when I'm on it.
I like that perspective. Is it's not about the consumption; it's about what you can bring to the platform. I think
Yeah.
one of my biggest challenges with LinkedIn is, and I see this across all content. YouTube, it's particularly prevalent. But for example, you make a satirical post. One you made a while ago really like gave me a chuckle. I think it was about you interviewed a guy and then you didn't hire him, but he was a great guy, whatever it might be, something along those lines.
Right. Right.
I obviously didn't do justice to the story. It was a lot funnier when Alex told
Yeah.
it or wrote it. But and then you see a whole like host of posts that are trying to do virtually the same thing,
Yeah.
but like a little bit different. And to me on LinkedIn, that's all I see is that like someone innovates and then
Right.
it's just all copycat content. And I see it on
Right.
YouTube too, but on YouTube, people actually have to get a video camera out, stand in front of it,
Yes.
make the video. You can't make the video too similar if you're doing that, or else you're going to get roasted.
Yeah.
And that is a function of a lot of social media. I think that's how you succeed on social media to a certain extent. Like I don't think Mr. Beast is doing that, but I think that people like the copycats of Mr. Beast have 20 million subscribers also, and it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of sad to me that that's how content works. And for me on LinkedIn, that is where I see it most prevalent because it's so much easier to do copycat with iteration on text. And I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
that's just like I've done some of that usually, but I'll try to take it from a domain that's not ours, right? Like
Yeah.
And I'm pretty transparent about this. Forrest Knight's a good friend of mine. You've met him. He's a great guy. He'll make some stuff
Yeah.
about software engineering, and I'll be like, "Hey, Forrest, like, I'm going to make this similar concept about data science. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Like, I'll tag your video." That to me is different than being like, "Oh, Tina made this video. I'm going to make the same video, same title, same
Right.
thumbnail, and throw it out there." And I'm like, that's not skill.
Yeah.
That's not creative. That's
It is very different where you're applying a concept to your content rather than the exact content to your content. It's very different.
Yeah, I watched a video today. It's like, oh, the dark way of getting successful on YouTube. And basically the guy's like, yeah, you just download the transcript, you put it into ChatGPT, you make bullets from it, and then you have ChatGPT write it again from the bullets. And
Right.
I'm like, dude, that's not cool. You took someone
Yeah.
else's hard work that they and he's like, yeah, you have to do something different when you tell the story. But it's like, the hard work for me, or like the fun work, is coming up with the concepts and thinking about, oh, how do I connect this? What examples can I use? How do I tell that story? And
Yeah.
over time, I become a little bit jaded about content in general. But I've also found that right now I'm having a ton of fun making content because
Right.
I realize that about it, and I'm like, well, why don't I be different? Why don't I try to tell the stories that I think are really important and that I want to get
Yeah.
out there? And yeah, maybe they won't get as many views, but I'll make better content because I'm excited about it. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things.
No, I totally get that. I definitely have gone through like some slumps with content. I went through a slump not even 3 months ago. I was talking to you about it. I literally told you, I was like, I really was lacking creatively. I was just hustling and grinding with Analyst Builder stuff, and then also trying to do YouTube and do consulting and do this. And I was just hit a wall. I was like, I need something to like really spark that creativity again and just do something different. And so I started doing TikTok, which I said I would never do. But I literally had hundreds of people tell me, Alex, you have to create a TikTok. People talk about you all the time over there. You would be a huge hit. And I was like, you know what? I just think I need something different. So I'm going to try it because creatively I need this. And so I started making them, and I've really enjoyed them. And it's kind of that starting fresh thing again, where I'm like, I'm starting fresh on a new platform where I get to be the noob and be the loser who doesn't know how to like angle his camera correctly or do the captions. I like that feeling. In fact, I realized after I started doing that I've been doing that my whole life. So like if you've ever played games like League of Legends, RuneScape, Dota, I always, and I didn't really think about it until like a month ago, I always would get really high level and do really well, get high rank, and then I would create a new character to start again from scratch. I never liked staying at that high level because it got boring. And so I needed a new challenge. And so I'd start over and build back up just to be like, I can still do this. Like I'm really good at this. And I did, and I've had this like epiphany a while back where I was like, I like building things and growing things from scratch and like making it successful. I don't know why. I don't like reveling in success and building on my success for whatever reason. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I really like starting over and trying new things and sparking it. And so creatively, I didn't know I needed that, but I did. And now I kind of like understand myself a little bit better because of that, if you want to say it that way.
That's what the journey is all about, is
Yeah.
understanding yourself better. Well, there's an interesting thing about all those examples you described is that you're starting from scratch, but you're not really starting from scratch. You've
Right.
played this
Right.
game before. It's
Correct.
fun to like, for example, when you do YouTube, right? There's stuff at the beginning that you do that you don't get to do towards the end. It's still like similar stuff, but you've been through it. You have the nostalgia of it. You really enjoy those processes. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have gotten to the point where you don't need them anymore, right? And so
Right.
it's fun to go back. I think TikTok is similar enough to YouTube or other content where you're like, oh, I have some of these skills. I understand some of this. But one, I got to go back. I got to refresh some of the basics. I got to learn some
Yeah.
new derivative of this type of thing. And you're not completely at ground zero. I think it's fine to start at ground zero. You'd probably enjoy that too. But it is a little bit fun to say, okay, can I take what I've learned and apply it to this new thing?
Exactly.
That is such a fun and I've done that a couple, I've created the podcast channel, I have the clips channel, and I'm like, oh, I'm not as good as this as I remember being at it. Oh crap, I gotta work on that. But like, even something as simple as creating titles and thumbnails for the podcast clips and the shorts that I was doing for those, I got to go through and make 500 titles and really work on what's catchy, what creates tension, what's a hook. And on my YouTube channel, maybe do one a week. I got unbelievable reps at that, and I think I've been able to create a lot better things more recently in terms of titles and hooks and thumbnails, because I just got more reps from starting over with very low consequences. There's also that side of it too, right? Is you start making TikToks, you're a beginner, you can mess up and you don't ruin a lot of the stuff that you built. Not that either of us really care about that, aside from maybe getting canceled for saying something really stupid. But it's always nice to be able to do things where you feel like, oh, I have a safety net of being a beginner. Why not try and experiment and like maybe mess up a couple times? That's like fun to do that.
Yeah. No, it is really fun. It's a good feeling. You get a little bit energized by it. At least it sounds like we both do.
Yeah. So I see that's also my issue, but I don't always do those extra things well. Is that I'll be like, I'm bored of this. I want to go back and do something else. I want to like start a podcast. I want to do this. And I don't get past the hump in a lot of these things where, you have to put in a certain amount of time to give them what I call terminal velocity, where they can perpetuate on their own. And I think YouTube, I did that, but I took the foot off the gas and I was like, okay, I want to do all this other stuff. And then all the other stuff, I was like, man, I don't like this as much as I like YouTube. Why am I doing these things? For me, I'm currently yearning to just like hyper focus on something, to really go deep, to completely immerse in something. And I'm doing that more with YouTube. I'm really doing that with this podcast. I mean, I love talking to the guests. Probably my favorite thing I do every week. And, why not double down on the podcasting and the content again? Because it's what I've found that I really enjoy.
Absolutely.
So I want to touch on two other things. The first is AI and your thoughts on the large language models, ChatGPT. I know you've had a lot of posts, commentary saying that AI is not going to take our jobs. I'm wondering if you ever thought that it might take our jobs early in the process, and how you arrived to this conclusion that, or maybe not conclusion, the speculation that like, hey, this isn't as serious as a lot of people are thinking.
Yeah, and I know that because we've had this kind of a conversation on this offline. So where it was just you and I, and that was early of 2023, where AI was really gaining ground. It was released in November. It was really gaining ground in towards the end of 2022, and then in 2023, I was like, oh my gosh, it's really taking off. I definitely had this I don't know if it's an existential crisis. That is not the word to use, but like I would compare it to that. Basically, like there was so much I didn't know and so many things I was seeing online, and my gut reaction was like, oh my gosh, if AI is half as good as I'm seeing on like these people's posts or YouTube, I was like, I'm out of a job. Like data analysis, data science, other careers as well in the data space, not including a ton of others, are just like obsolete. We won't need them. So for several weeks, I was just really down in the dumps. I was like, I feel like if everything they're saying is true, like it's not good for me. But even more so than that, I had a feeling like people at the higher levels would be okay, which was where I'm at. I felt bad for my audience because I was like, my audience is a lot of people trying to break into tech, break into data analytics, data science, and all these things. That's who I was initially like. I was like, oh gosh. I was like, the people are just starting out right now. That's going to make it tougher. I feel like that's coming to fruition. Although I still see a lot of, and actually, let me take a step back. I got out of that funk after I was like, I'm done speculating and being worried. I want to deep dive into this, like really dive in, test everything out, not just to make content on YouTube, which I eventually did, but also to be like, is this true or not? Like, are we really at this point in society where AI is going to take over everything and like we're going to have a huge crisis on our hands? So I really started digging into it, articles, testing different AI products, talking to experts in the field. After doing all of that, I really felt more at ease. As I got more hands-on with it, as I tested things, as I talked to these people, I was like, okay, let's see where it's at now. And let's see where it's going to be in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. At the short end of the stick, or the short time, I don't know how to say that, within the next 3 years, I see it just being a really good tool. And even for some use cases that I found, because I've been using it quite a bit in my actual work, I find it to where I'm like, I actually don't want to use this. It's not helpful. It's not giving me what I want, and it's making me more frustrated. And so there were parts of my work where I didn't like using it at all. And then I started talking to other people, and they're like, yeah, that's the same. Like, I really don't like using it. It's actually making it harder for me to get my work done in some instances. Now, specifically with things like coding, it was definitely helping, especially with experienced people. But even then, I myself, when I'm getting to more complex things, it would refuse to do what I asked it to do. Like, not just ChatGPT, I would try it on Bard, I would try it on Bing, I tried on Claude 2. I was trying on everything. It refused to do what I want. It was something pretty complex. And I was like, I would type out the best description I possibly could give all the, columns, everything it needed, everything it could possibly want, and it could not give it to me. It was so frustrating. I eventually just wrote it myself, like some Neanderthal. And, that process of really having to dig into it gave me a much better appreciation for AI and what it can do and what it can't do. And so for me, my outlook in the next 3 years is it's just going to be a tool for the next several years. It's a good tool, but there's a lot of things that I just don't like about it. That in like a professional setting, I'm like, I don't like how it does this. I really don't. I really like this part of it. So I use it for that part. But data analysis specifically, as you know, for data science, it's not just coding. It's a lot more than that. It's working with people, it's managing expectations, time management, critical thinking, figuring things out on your own before you code. And ChatGPT can help with those things in some ways, but there were different implementations that I knew were better based off of hands-on experience than what they were telling me to do. And I'm like, if I was a beginner and I trusted this completely, that would cost me thousands of dollars more per month to run that at this scale. And I just knew that from experience, or, doing this process or whatever it was. So my experience, I think, is going to be way more valuable in the future because of that hands-on experience that I've had without AI. And now with AI, I think I'm even more helpful. So that's just within 3 years. In 5 to 10 years, that's really up in the air where it's going to be. But I see AI being integrated more into companies that haven't used it. So I think there's going to be a large new people getting into data that's never used data products at scale before that are going to need a lot of help. And they're going to really rely on people to come in and help them build that, maintain it, make sure it's giving correct outputs, all these things. And so I think the data space is actually going to explode quite a bit in like 3 to 5 years. I think to a level that we didn't, I think people think now is like crazy tech data. I think in 3 to 5 years, we're going to be even more reliant, even more integrated with it, that it's going to be significantly larger than it is today. That's my take on it. That's what I think is going to happen. So yeah, AI is like, it's really hard to say. But that's where I'm at this point. Now, I am open to changing my mind. If I see things and hear things and see data that's contrary to what I'm seeing, I am more than happy to change my opinion and be swayed by facts. That's just my intuition, and that's what my gut tells me right now.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. That is the most important thing, in my opinion, is saying, okay, let's try to look at this through it as an objective lens as possible. I think where ChatGPT is right now, where Claude is right now, where all these models are right now, there's massive limitations to them doing really high level work. I'm trying to put together a state of analytics report, pulling together a lot of data, and I've been using ChatGPT a lot. It's helping, it's really good, but at the same time, there's errors that it runs into that I'm like, why is it getting this error? Why would it write code in that way? And still net positive for me, but the more complex the project is, the more difficulty it's going to have. The more sort of, I think, outside perspective, looking on at how these pieces fit together outside of pure coding implementation, the more difficulty it's having right now. At the same time, I think that these models are going to incrementally get better, and there aren't enough iterations yet for us to say, oh, well, GPT 3.5 to GPT 4 to GPT 4.5 to GPT 5, how much of an incremental boost is there? I mean, at least for me, the scariest moment was when we went from GPT 3 to GPT 4, because GPT 3 was pretty useless, in my opinion. And then GPT 4 was very, very useful. I would say GPT 3 was net neutral. It didn't save me any time. GPT 4 doubled my output probably. And then if GPT 5 doubles my output again, which it might, who knows, and GPT 6 doubles the output again, we're looking at an exponential type of cycle. And exponential cycles are something that humans intuitively don't understand. And that's where any fear that I would have around this comes in. Is I don't think the technology right now is anywhere close to replacing our brains or replacing or largely replacing our work. I think the biggest concern is humans replacing other humans. Like if one person can do double the work of another person now, then a company will hire, or let's say they can do 3x the work, then a company will hire 2 people and they'll get 6 times the work that they were getting before.
Right.
And that's the large concern that I have in the short term. But the exponential returns are what really scare me. But at the same time, I'm trying to be a realist about this and say, let's see what happens when the next model comes out. How much better am I getting? How much better are other people getting around? And if it's exponential, like we think it might be, or like I think it might be, that's a cause for concern. If it's linear, then I'm like, well, we'll be fine for 20 years pretty easily.
Well, I would agree with that, because if it does get that much better, then that's pretty wild. My take on it is, though, and from everything everyone I've talked to who are much more better, know so much more about this than I do, is they're like, yeah, these models have gotten a lot better, but they're like, we think, and these are people who are like in this, who are actually like helping build these things, and they're like, we think we're gonna hit sort of a slope here. We're having this huge up ramp, but we're gonna start tapering off at some point until there's some new advancement in hardware specifically that allow us to take us further. And so they're like, we're training on 100 billion, 200 billion parameters. Well, we're not seeing that much different when we go to 300 billion, even though it's 100 or a 50% increase in the size of the model. And so they're like, so there are different, once we figure out these different ways, we'll have improvements, but will it be, like you're saying, and what is a genuine concern, will it be exponential? That's the part where I don't personally think it's going to get there at that speed. I see it more as, if it was just a software issue, we could get there quick. It would be exponential. But it's combined with hardware, and hardware is actually lagging quite a bit behind where the software could be. And so they're running into a lot of issues where they're like, we think this could work in the future, but we need something that's way, 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 way more powerful. And that's where a lot of like the quantum computing comes in, where they're like, if we figure out quantum computing to this level and we integrate it with AI, all bets are off. And they're like, it could scale exponentially, like you're talking about. But both of those things have to align and work together. And those things are improving. I just don't see those things getting done within like, a couple of years, and then it's like, boom, everything fits together. I see those things get done in 5 years. Then it takes years to integrate, implement, fix the bugs. Then even then, like what you're talking about, companies have to integrate AI. Integrating AI into a company is not as a plug and play. It does take a lot of work, a lot of infrastructure being built up. And then on top of that, and I'm just keeping rambling. On top of that, I think a lot of these generalist AIs that we're using right now, all the ones that we just talked about, are really great. I don't think those ones are going to be the ones that all these companies are going to be using for a lot of their work. I think we're going to have specialty AI models that are designed for finance, designed for this company, this company, this company, and they train on their internal data. And that in and of itself takes a lot of work and a lot of infrastructure and a lot of people who have to actually build these things out. It would be, I find it really tough to imagine a world where we do this plug and play, where it can plug into all of our data, because that's not even currently possible now with almost any organization ever. Because data is so scattered and it's so siloed and there's so many issues. It's the human problem. As long as humans are involved, there's so many issues. So those are a lot of I agree with you. If it goes exponential, it's insane, right? We can't predict where that's going to go. I could never say. I just don't see that happening. And I see so many other human factors that are in play. If AI was just by itself and could do everything and was perfect and go into a company and just take over, maybe. There's so many other factors and variables and historical issues that we've had for 40 years in tech or longer that have never been resolved and are still issues today. And unless somehow AI comes in and helps us solve those things, we're still going to need people. We're still going to need human intervention, I think even more so. So sorry to just completely refute everything you said. That's not what I was trying to do. That's just my take on it. That's what I see, the limitations and issues that I see, even short term, but also long term.
Yeah, I think that's completely valid. I think that human issues historically have been what is bottleneck technology. But on the other hand, I also think human issues are what are going to quote unquote solve AI. I mean, if you think about all of the open source models that we have right now, you have Llama and you have implementations where people can train it on their laptop that are producing the same quality results as GPT-3. So to me, the open source nature of things that are forcing people to be more efficient with the algorithms are probably going to offset the need for compute, right? So if all of us can run these things in this very fast fashion, it's open source. These companies can swoop in, and it's not a one-to-one match. They're dealing with slightly different problems. But to me, that's something. I'm not saying that they're not going to run into that compute hurdle. I think that that's a very real thing. But the way that I'm seeing the trend with open source and use of these models suggests that it's not an unsolvable problem with algorithmic efficiency and with better methods of training these models. From the company side, implementation, I think large companies, you're 100% right. They're going to have a nightmare trying to implement these things. I wouldn't say the fear I have, but the expectation that I have is that new startups are going to start building infrastructure on top of these large language models, using things like LangChain, using frameworks that are specifically designed to organize data on top of an API or one of these third-party models. And I think that those will move really fast. They'll be completely transformative. There are limitations. It's scary to build on a model that isn't yours, right? On OpenAI, on Google or whatever it might be. But the speed that they can move, because they just have to curate their data and they don't have to really worry about the model as much. to me is something that is very possibly disruptive, or like it could be very disruptive. But we still haven't seen that play out necessarily. So I'm biting my tongue on that a little bit because we really don't know if that's a feasible business model. That's also something anyone can do. Like I can build a chat app, which I've done, which just takes my YouTube comments and responds to them like it's me. Right. I mean, if I could do that, what can companies do at scale with some of these frameworks and from some of these models? So I won't say that I agree with you, but I won't say I disagree with you, because neither of us haven't. Like, the future is completely open. And that's like, to me, sort of the fun of this is that we can speculate. And, why not speculate in a more optimistic way if neither of us can control the future about these things? Like, while I do speculate, while I might have a slightly grimmer philosophy or like long-term view of this than you do, I wouldn't say that it changes my day-to-day life or the work that I do or anything. Maybe there's a little bit more sense of urgency where, hey, I'm, saving to buy a farm, or I'm like, but that doesn't mean that I'm hiding in a shed. It means that, okay, I want to be part of this conversation. I want to learn more. I want to explore this. And I think that's essentially the philosophy that is the healthiest, is, the world's not going to end tomorrow. Let's try to solve these problems or learn about these things together. And that's one thing I really appreciate from you, is you're always willing to have these conversations with me. One last thing, let's talk about the Analyst Builder, dude. I was going deep and I almost forgot, but something you've been absolutely crushing for a while. You've been stealing editing resources from me in the form of Tony. So let me hear about it.
Yeah, it's it's funny you mentioned Forrest, because he was the person he was the first person I talked to about it. It was when we met up in Utah. I was in person. I was like, I just have this idea. I was like, I've seen other companies, other products like Leak Code, where you have questions. I was like, but I also really want to make courses, and I really think I can make stuff better than what's out there. And that stemmed from that. Right after that happened, I was like, I don't know if I can build it myself. Let me reach out to some companies that already have built something like that and see if they want to partner with me, and I can build my courses or, help build their company, and we would partner together. And so I reached out to like 3, 4, 5 of them, and all of them were like, no, we really appreciate, we love the stuff you do, but it's not something we're interested in. I was like, that's fine. I totally get it. If I owned a company and somebody propositioned me for that, I would probably say no too, but I just wanted to see. And then I was like, why not build my own thing? And so, we're about to do the beta launch of Analyst Builder, and like, I don't know when you're doing this, but as of today, which is September, am I allowed to say
next Wednesday? Yeah, that's fine. This will come out.
So as of September 7th, it's going to launch by the end of September. So within like 2 to 3 weeks, we're putting some final touches on it. And the beta launch just in of itself is just really cool. And we built everything from scratch. I mean, 90% of it is code built from scratch. We didn't borrow an editor online. We didn't pay for an editor. We built our own editor because I wanted to control every aspect of this website and make it way better than what anyone else has. Now, this initial beta launch is simple. It's not going to be compared to products that have been out there for 5 to 10 years. But what it is it's super fun. And I already have visions of what it's going to be in the future that I don't think any other company is going to be able to do. And so not just with that, but with the courses. So like I'm making courses, and I have wanted to make courses for a while because people ask me all the time to do it. And I was like, I can just put them on Udemy. I could, Coursera's asked me to make some courses for their project section and all these different things, like in Unacademy and all these different places. But then I don't own them, and I don't get to make them my own and keep them and use them. And I was like, I wanted a place where you could, and this is how I like learning, which is you see a lesson and then you practice it, you see it, you practice it, then you build. That's how I learn. And that's how I feel like my community has learned through my YouTube channel. And so I'm like, let me just ramp that up. And now I've integrated the editor into the courses. So now you get to, take the course, but while you're doing the course, you're practicing it and getting hands-on experience, practicing these things and then building. And so it's really unique. There's other platforms that have bits and pieces of it, but not all in one place like what mine is. Not only that is I just have so many ideas for the future. Like I have a list of 20 things that I'm sure I want to add. I'm already convinced each one of them will be on the website at some point. And each one of them, I'm like, no other website has that. No other website has that. And so I'm trying to create something really unique. The beta launch is going to be simple. But in a year, it's going to be, in my opinion, one of the best websites to learn data analysis, to practice technical questions, and just several other things that we'll be adding. It'll be one of the best out there. Like we will be the standard. I genuinely believe that in a year. And so, it's going to be amazing. There's a wait list. We already have almost 5,000 people on it. And I've only posted about it once. So there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of people who want it. And I'm super excited to launch it because it's just going to be a great platform to learn data analytics and to practice for technical interviews. And every single piece of content was made by me. Every thing you see on that website is me, except for the designs, which were from a team and all the infrastructure I helped, I worked with them. But every piece of content that you'll learn from is me. And so again, it's kind of unique because you go to any other platform, it's 6, 7, 8 people of instructors. And so if you like how I teach, then you're going to love Analyst Builder. It's as simple as that.
Oh yeah. Well, Alex, that's, I think, a perfect place to end on. I'm super excited for it. I'll have a link to the beta in the description if that's doable, if that's okay.
Just analystbuilder.com.
Perfect. And Alex, always a pleasure speaking with you. It's so much fun. Obviously talking about AI, Analyst Builder, your journey from manager to, I guess, full-time YouTuber and Analyst Builder. But again, thank you for the time, and I can't wait to get this one up.